Good morning, good evening, bonjour, bonsoir à tous, and welcome to this week's edition of Wada Forum. Thank you all for being here today. So, as we mentioned last week, this forum space, we are catering, mostly over the next few weeks. I was about to say months, but weeks really, towards our delegates who are traveling to Argentina. So, we're focusing this space really on you all, getting you ready for travel, talking about important governance things going on, just making sure everyone's up to speed. So today's agenda, we will of course start with, some opening stuff. We'll have a quick update from our WADA D-Rep, and then we'll get into a debrief from the Kenya workshop. I know some of you were able to attend in person, some of you attended online, maybe people missed it and wanted to hear what happened. And then we'll go through some next steps. I know at that workshop it was brought up about how to represent each region in the global sense. So we need to strategize on how we represent Africa with speakers. And then we'll have a spot for talking about travel prep. I know in the group chat, people have been going back and forth sharing stories about visas, etc. So we'll have a place for everyone to check in, ask questions that you need to. And then we will have a breakout room to get more in depth into a specific topic regarding something presented by the DIT team last week. So there's a bit of an overview of what we have going on today. As mentioned last time, we're going to focus mostly on the English for these sessions. And there in that breakout room at the end, it will be led by Mermos, who is bilingual. So for people that speak French, you're welcome also in that room at the end, but the main session will be in English today. Ceci dit, si vous avez des questions en français pendant la présentation, vous êtes les bienvenus à les demander et les poser en français. On va faire notre mieux pour vous répondre et vous soutenir. Okay. Moving along, here we have our knowledge base resources, just for people who want some more info, background on what's going on. Feel free to follow these links. And then we'll get into our statement of purpose. So I think today I will call on Mercy. I love when Mercy does the English statement of purpose.
I could feel it. I could feel it coming like a mile away. I knew that Megan was going to call on me. Anyway, thank you, Megan. Thanks everyone for being here. So our statement of purpose, I always, every time I have the opportunity to read it, I always put the intent behind it is what gets us going, what gets us waking up day in and day out, a lot of the hours that we put in, a lot of the hurdles that we come across, and yet we just keep pushing forward. And the reason is that we just want to make sure that we are creating a fairer world by elevating underrepresented groups through the application of technology, because we know that technology can leapfrog communities, can leapfrog countries. So that is what we are looking for. And by so doing, to invest in a more equitable future. Thank you, Megan.
Okay, thanks so much, Mercy. I love your elaborations. I think I'll go ahead and read the French part here. Notre déclaration de but, notre mission est de promouvoir les groupes sous-représentés grâce à l'application de la technologie et investir dans un avenir plus équitable. So this is a nice reminder, and it feels especially near and dear, right, as we're getting ready for this event in Argentina, right? Where everyone will be there representing us. So I think this is exciting. Next slide. All right. Now I'd like to invite Edufwa, if you're here, for a quick recap of last week's meeting.
Hello, everyone. So just a few highlights from last week's call. Last week for Catalyst Fund 13 updates, we said that the community reviews were ongoing. So yes, now it's ended. It ended on the 10th of November. And so we said that although for now it looks like Fund 13 is in a quiet period, we were encouraging proposers to promote their proposals in anticipation for the upcoming voting. For Intersect update, there was a feedback form that was shared. I will provide a link in the chats after I give this highlight. So those on the call today can also have a look at it. For Singularity Net update, we announced the hackathon that was focused on Footrex risk assessment services with about $10,000 in AJAX available as prize money. Unfortunately, now the registration has closed. It closed on the 11th of November. Then we had Nana Safo give us some Wada DREP progress. So last week we said that the delegation had increased from 20.8K to 228K at the end of Epoch 520. Nana Safo also said that the governance action, should K be increased, was successfully submitted, and that onboarding process for new DREP team members is ongoing. A notice will be released once preparations are complete. So we are encouraging our community members to stick to the Wada DREP, and I'm sure there are some tutorials going on in the WhatsApp groups, and Nana Safo can post them in the chats as well, so we can all stick successfully. Thanks, Megan. Back to you.
All right. That's exciting stuff. I think, last week, there's not much update from last week, and I think Edufwa said it all. So I think without further ado, we can move on into the next part. What you're all here for, right? Nana Safu, you're welcome. Do we have updates on the Wada DREP? Nana Safu, if you're able.
Yep,
there we go.
we do have.
Okay. Welcome.
Yes, we do have. Thanks for the opportunity. And I'm once again glad to be here to share an update on the Wada DREP in terms of how far we have come and then what has been going on in the background. So, as said by Edufwa, rightfully, we are still making preparations to, create a room to actually accommodate a few more individuals who may be interested in becoming a part of the Wada DREP team. So people should still, be on guard and then look out for that communication when it is ready. And having said that, I'm also glad to share that our delegation, which is our voting power, has, increased from 228K ADA as of last week to 239.9K ADA as of the last time I checked, which is Epoch 521, right? So, it's a huge, progress, and I'm glad that gradually the delegations are coming in. And I'm also happy to share that we have 12 different or distinct delegators who have delegated to the Wada pool. And if you look at the image on the screen now, you can realize that some more delegations have come in, but because the Epoch boundary has not yet been closed, these ones have not been calculated as part of the voting power yet. So it means that very soon, when the Epoch 522 closes, the delegation power or the voting power is going to increase from the current number to a much higher figure. So that is, an awesome update that I'm glad sharing with you all. And if you have not delegated to the Wada DREP pool yet, I want to encourage you to go ahead and delegate. I will be sharing a post in the chat, which contains a link to YouTube that would guide you if you are, for instance, using the Your mobile wallet app. It would guide you so that you're able to use it to delegate your stake to the Wada DREP. But one thing that I've discovered so far is that if you have not been updating your wallet for a long time now, it means that you have to update your wallet to the latest version to be able to participate in the governance action. So if you have not, you have to do so. But before you do so, please make sure that you have your seed phrase ready, because immediately you do the update, you'll be required to restore your wallet all over again. So ensure that you have your seed phrase ready before you go ahead with the update. If you don't have your seed phrase, look for it. Make sure you have found it. Make sure you are aware, or you are sure that that is the seed phrase that you are using before you go ahead to do any sort of update. And then, or better, so if you don't have it, if you've lost it, then you can just create a new wallet and then transfer all your funds from the current wallet to that particular new wallet before you go ahead with the update, so that you don't lose your funds. So that is pretty much something I wanted to share in terms of updates on Wada DREP. And hopefully going forward, we'll be able to welcome on board some few more members as part of the team, so that this will become very, efficient and useful. Thanks, Megan, for the opportunity once again.
Yeah, thanks, Nanasafu. That's exciting. I was throwing some emojis while you were talking. It's exciting times for the Wada DREP. Congratulations. I like to see the progress each week. Very encouraging.
Yeah. Very quickly, just to add on to that, apparently in Daedalus, I know that a lot of us have pretty much given up on Daedalus, just because it takes quite a while to sync to a full node. But the brave souls that are still using Daedalus, please be reminded that DREP delegation excuse me, is coming on to Daedalus. So yeah, I just wanted to add that to the great update by Nanasafu. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I had that in mind, but I wanted to make some few more, research about it before I come up with, the announcement. But that's a great announcement, and I look forward to probably coming up with some tutorials so that those who use it, later on when they are ready, they can also use it to, aid them in delegating their stake. So yeah, thanks for that.
All right. So next on our agenda, we're going to get into some more governance stuff. And maybe a raise of hands or emojis. Who here was either in Kenya in person or online? Are we having a quiet group again today? You can even unmute if you want to say hi.
Yeah, hi, Megan. Good evening here from Ghana. So I was there at the Kenya workshop.
Okay, that's great. Glad you're here with us today.
I was also there. Good evening.
Yeah, Sophia, welcome.
Hi, everyone. I was there as well.
Maureen, great to have you here. All right, so for the next part,
can I jump in? Boaz was there as well, I believe. Also, I want to give a big shout out to Bernard. So Bernard and myself, we joined online. Hi, Bernard. We heard that you were not very well, so we are very happy to have you here. But yeah, we were, myself and Bernard. I don't know who else was able to join virtually here. But yeah, so that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Okay, no problem. And I think for this part, I'll pass over to Mercy for facilitating.
Okay, I guess I'll facilitate. I sort of had a bit of a discussion with Samuel before, and he said that I was definitely not facilitating this portion, but I'm happy to.
No, can I come in?
Yeah, okay.
No, this is the issue. Can I clarify?
Yeah.
It's not about facilitating, but I thought Mercy will be sharing.
Sharing her own updates.
But it's actually Afia who is on the bill to give us high-level takeaways of the in-person meeting before we give room for the others to also share their experiences and those who are online as well. So if Madam Afia, if you can hear me, kindly take away from here.
Hello, everyone. Yeah. As we know, we are all we are all gearing towards, how should I say it, making the Cardano Constitution. And because of that, there's been a series of workshops, about 64. If I will post the link to all those workshops, the responses to all those workshops in the chat. And if you want to go through them and see for each workshop what people discussed, you'll be able to review it. Getting to the main workshop, there's been 2 workshops to solidify whatever people have said. They have synthesized all the workshops that we've gone through. As I said, we'll put it in the chat, and if you want to look at the responses, you can see the responses at each workshop. They have come out with all those responses, and those responses are the thing that we need to highlight. It were those responses that we went to talk about, or articles that we went to talk about in Kenya, and to bring to close some of the issues that looked like it was contentious. So in Kenya, one of the major things that we discussed was the preamble to the Constitution and why that. So they took us through the purpose, why the Cardano blockchain ecosystem was even, how it came about, which was an interesting to read. I think I would put the links to this document in the Interset group so that people can have an idea of what's going on. So the preamble talked about the interim and current draft constitutions, about its historical contents, information about the purpose of the constitution, and then the set of principles and foundation that were governing the system. So after thorough discussion, I think we did this, and I think all those amendments were going to come up, because this is at the end of every workshop, they bring out a new draft. So all this was going to come up in the next workshop. In all, I think that most of the people at our workshop agreed to most of the things that were in there. Do you hear me? Because I've seen in the chat that it looks like I'm in and out. I don't know.
Now it looks okay, but for some time during your presentation, it was very far away. We're not hearing anything. Messi was trying to draw your attention, but you weren't hearing.
I can't.
No.
At the meeting, a number of articles came up for us to discuss, which a lot of people contributed to it. As I said, they wanted to know whether we should include some of the test nets in terms of financial sustainability in the articles. And then one of the things that was a major contention was whether the Constitution was supposed to limit on-chain governance to only owners of ADA. It was a very daring issue, only owners of ADA, or should they also include people that owners of ADA would appoint as their representative to do on-chain governance within the ecosystem. So all those things that came up, we voted on, and at the end of the day, one of the key things that I took out, the other people who were at the workshop here, and they can also testify, was the inclusivity of everybody there. The idea that the Constitution was not made for just one or a group of people, but for the people who are, anybody who is interested in the ecosystem. That's one of the things I took. And then the other thing that came out was we met at Kenya was quite satisfied with the state of affairs of the Constitution as it is now, because at the end of the day, we were asked to cast votes whether if we're voting on the Constitution right there, how many people could have voted yes? And 28 people there voted yes, and 8 voted no. So it was a little bit dicey. And those who voted no were asked to submit their reasons for voting no. They should add their name and their contact so that if their submission was really, really necessary, they would get in touch with them to see the way forward. At the end of the day, they asked that for each region, 2 representatives should come and talk about how Cardano has affected the region and what they think about the Cardano ecosystem, right? So then they passed a sheet around for people to write their names if they want to represent their region. To book a slot, already when it came up, Laurentine said that he was going to liaise with Boaz and Malik to write something in French to represent the French people within the region. And when the paper got to me, I've seen that Darlington has also written his name that he wants to write something to represent the region. So I also put my name down just to make sure that the slot is secured. So the idea now, the major thing that we have to do, because we want to make sure that it's coordinated. The major thing that we want to do is we have to decide on what we want to represent us, the region, what we want to say out there. The discussions going on where we shouldn't bring out any negative thing to say the Cardano blockchain introducing into the region, because before the Cardano blockchain, people were doing blockchain, but in other terms like crypto scams and all those things. But we can talk about how positively introducing the Cardano blockchain into the system, what is done, the understanding and the giving the lie that blockchain is not just for trading, but blockchain is for other things. So, top of my head, this is what I can conclude on. Though at the end of the day, there was this guy going around collecting signatories that they feel that the constitution is where the constitution is not good to rectify it. So they're collecting signatories so that they can tender it in that no, they don't agree that we should the stage which the constitution in, we should rectify it in Argentina. But then a lot of us also thought that this is the first stage. We can't keep on going back and forth. It's the starting, is the basis. We are starting from here. If we are able to rectify it now, and we go by some of the things, and there needs to be an amendment on the way, yes, you can do that amendment. But just to say that no, the constitution is not in a good state to rectify, we don't think it's a good idea. Actually, the guy didn't get much signatures, so he couldn't tender in the thing. So it's from this, it means that most of the people there, who over almost 40, were in agreement that the constitution should be passed. So that is my key takeoff. Mustafa was there, Boaz is gone. Maureen is also gone. Maureen was also there. I saw Bernard online, so they can add up to what I've said if there's any key thing they think that the community should know. Meanwhile, I'll try to post the links to the documents, the revised documents up to this stage. Now we have a document revised with all the changes, including the Costa Rica change. They've not added the Kenya changes yet, but we have all those documents. I'll post it in the group, and then people who can actually read it and they have serious concern may bring it up before we meet in Argentina.
I was saying thank you very much. That was a comprehensive information about what transpired. Mustafa, I saw your hand up and you are off again. Do you want to share quickly some takeaways, because I learned you were there?
Yes, somewhat. Thanks. I think I was just giving kudos to Madam Ipia for that rundown. So she's actually touched on almost what transpired at the workshop. So nothing much to add, but just to agree with what she has presented. And so we all look forward to the final draft of the constitution. That is all that transpired at the Kenya workshop. I think that will be affected into the current, into the constitution, the draft, and then we'll know some of the changes and updates that have come up in the workshop. Because whilst we were there, we had Costa Rica session, all the synthesis workshop that the draft has passed through. We saw the amendment that have taken effect in the draft. And so same will be done for the Kenya workshop too, and possibly maybe the incoming virtual synthesis too, which is a mandatory synthesis.
Yes, I forgot to talk about that. We are supposed to have the last online meeting, which is 16.
Yeah,
which is mandatory, compulsory. Yeah. I don't know for delegates. I don't know whether non-delegates can also come on and maybe listen in and.
Or both delegates are not delegates. All those going to the convention.
Yeah, everybody going to the convention. Yeah.
All right then. Boaz, you are around. Do you have a few things you want to share with us? While Boaz is preparing to come through, Mercy and Bernard, you also give us an account of your experiences when you join online. Boaz, kindly unmute, and if you have a few things to share with us, take away.
And Boaz, if you want to speak to the French speakers, I think that should be fine as well.
Yeah, and that can be done later in the call in the breakout room. So Mercy, maybe you also want to take it from here, share some of the experience you had.
All right. So myself and Bernard were online with quite a few, there was quite a big online presence. It was a full 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. And as Efia and Mustafa has already said, so this happened over 2 weekends. The previous weekend was in Costa Rica and this one was in Kenya. I myself, I was supposed to be in Kenya, but I've been traveling quite a bit lately. So I decided to join online. Of course, it was not as fun or as, should I say, engaging as being in the room, because it looks like there was a lot of great discussions that were happening in the room. That obviously when you are virtual, it's difficult to participate. But, we were still able to hear some of the very good conversations that were going on. They were able to go through the whole constitution, especially in Kenya. And as Efia has said, they are sort of consolidating everything. And hopefully there should be a draft, like the sort of the final-ish draft, I believe maybe by tomorrow, ready for the synthesis workshop on Saturday. So after that is full speed until the convention. Obviously, what we all need to remember, and I think that the position that a lot of us this side of the world has taken, is that we shouldn't let the perfect be the enemy of good. The constitution as it is now might not cater for everything, but as Efia said, let's at least start. Let it go beyond the 3 entities that were in charge of everything, that is Imergo, IOG, and CF. And let's bring in some more community participation. One thing I think that a key highlight for me, Mustafa didn't mention, was he raised a very good point. And that is the fact that there should be regional representation when it comes to the Constitutional Committee. So as a lot of us know, the Constitutional Committee is going to play a very big role. Once the Constitution is ratified, it's going to be like a referee of sorts. And it was a very good point that Mustafa raised. And that leads me to another point. So a lot of the things that are not currently being able to be addressed is going into a future work stream. So 2025 is still going to be very, very busy, even after the ratification of the Constitution in December. Again, what I'll say is that if you are not in Intersect, in the Discord, which is where things are very active, we will also try and do our best to really update here in the forums. But please get engaged, look for working groups, and so on and so forth. Even special interest groups, and also as these future work streams kick in, please let's all get engaged so that come the committee elections, you are visible and it's easy for the community to vote you in. So yeah, let's keep on keeping on. I don't want to take too much time. So I think I'll wrap it up here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mercy. Bernard, if you're around and can hear me, a minute or two, just share with us your perspectives as well.
Yes, I'm following along everything that is said. Thank you very much. Greetings, everybody. Sorry if I'm not around. I'm very busy. I attended twice. The first time I couldn't join. I waited and waited in the room there. After getting a link, eventually who was there in person gave me a link. So I just waited. When you wait after some time, then when I left, then that's when maybe the link worked. So it allowed me to be there twice in 2 different days. Actually, I can say this constitutional preparation was well thought out, because these sessions for preparing for the Argentina, they are eliminating a lot of big problems. If they were not there, I could foresee that Argentina would face a lot of problems. A lot of things will be very new. A lot of things won't have time for people to digress. So that is why I think it is really serving its purpose, these meetings that are preparatory to the Argentina Convention. All right, there are so many concerns that will rise out of this, what we call draft constitution or preliminary constitution. It's natural. And, when you start something, it's impossible to fulfill all areas and to please everybody. But there is a loophole. Even if you point out some loopholes, it's too early, it's too late for them to even think about them or even to sort them out. It's too late. But one concern I have, which I have always had, is the description of who a Cardano member is, according to this draft constitution, is a header holder, which to me, it leaves out a lot of people who are not actively participating in holding header. A lot, quite a lot. And it even leaves out all my 4 schools where for 3 years I have got kids who called themselves WIMS Cardano. So because they don't hold header, they are nobody in Cardano and they can't participate in any way. So these are some of the things that maybe in future we could bring them via our own communities, and then, but it won't apply to others. But especially high schools. I've got about 90 kids who have gone through 3 years, and this year they are going to tertiary now. And then I saw also Olympus. They are putting a lot of effort on education there, and he has got hundreds and hundreds of targeting high schools for Cardano, where is that end to learn. So all this is a sizable population that is going to be left out because they don't hold ADA. They don't vote. And again, in Africa, quite a huge of our populations, number one, they don't hold ADA. That is why delegation to this DREP is meaningless to them. They are not doing it. Even if you poll how many people have got ADA, they have ADA, even sometimes 150 on Coxygen Global. Quite a lot of all of them, I'm incentivizing and paying them every month in ADA. They are holding ADA, but they are not delegating. Why? That is one question. And secondly, they are not even voting on the catalyst. They are not taking part in voting in the catalyst. That's the second part. So again, it comes back to the point I'm saying that quite a sizable population from various corners of the world are really not going to be active in this constitution by virtue that it has defined only a Cardano member is an ADA holder. So that is what I see going forward. Sorry, let me stop here. Thank you very much, Samuel and everybody.
Thank you very much, Bernard. You are most welcome any day. It's been a long time here, but you always come with a lot of energy, a lot of positive vibes. Thank you. Next slide, please. All right. We are talking about the constitutional workshop in Argentina last week. Memos was here to present a number of information regarding how Africa can represent one voice in Argentina and all the good things that the DIT team is putting together to unite the front of Africa. Members, if you're on the call at this point, I will just invite you to take over from here and tell us what you got today.
Okay, thank you. The ideas we started discussing last week was to gather together and get a united front and prepare exactly the ideas and speech that we want to make at this constitutional convention, so that at least going forward, even if it's going to take time for the constitution to be to address some of the issues that we as a community we face, and also integrate some of the views that we have on governance. We thought it was important for us to start doing it right away at this convention and let the community know that Africa has some very particular views and vision we can offer to the entire community, and that it will be very detrimental for the entire Cardano community not to listen to the African wisdom. One example of that is that when in the tech world they started bringing up this concept of open source and community engagement, the name that they chose back then to represent that very idea in a very strong way, which gave birth to what we know today as Ubuntu. Ubuntu is an African philosophy of coming together to create a community. It's the strongest of African philosophy in terms of community building. And when the world wanted to use that, it saw fit to use that concept. So what is it that now, when we are designing this governance in the Cardano ecosystem, for instance, we cannot think back and look back at this wisdom that was already there before, and that we can harness from to create a very sustainable kind of ecosystem. So those are some of the small little ideas like that come into play. The second idea that can possibly also come into play is the idea that the Cardano community, whether it's in terms of what can I say? Whether it's in terms of either of the blockchain or even the cryptocurrency, what the Cardano community always made sure to do was that everything should be science-based. And no one has designed governance models as science-based as African governance models, traditional governance models. I'm not talking about these modern governance models that are not working at all for us. So how is it that we cannot use those, we cannot look at those systems and bring them into the Cardano community to make sure that the type of governance model that we'll be building will be sustainable, will be, as people usually call it, biomimicking, will be mimicking nature as African indigenous governance models do. So these are some of the ideas that we can bring to the Cardano community and tell them, look, Africa has a lot of experience in designing governance models. We have models that lasted 10,000 years and that are still in application today. When we go to the market and you see women selling things and the way they are organized, those market rings and how they women selling particular goods are organized around the governance models that they have. Those governance models have been around for 10,000 years and they are still working today. So the idea was to tell the Cardano community, look, there's this, there are this. We even at the beginning of the SIP, we started introducing those ideas, but they were not enough taken into consideration. And if we want to do something science-based, we need to look at them. So that's also one. In terms of decentralization, is one of the ethos that we are pushing even on the in the Kenya workshop. There were a lot of voice pertaining to that. We're trying to push that idea of decentralization. Again, no one better than Africans have been exploring that idea. The concept of fractals is exactly the root of decentralization, how you make sure that you have some small systems, but that goes and are scalable from the microcosm to the macrocosm. So you have those systems that are in existence, and we've been running them for a long time. Those can be inspirational for the governance models that we want to build. But we need to bring those ideas to the Cardano community and let them be aware of it, because I'm pretty sure they don't know that Africans have all this wisdom that is being embedded in our systems, because no one studies us, but we study everybody else. And we need to make people aware of it. So the idea is to bring that aspect first, but also, first we have to bring, as Laurentine was pointing out, start with gratitude, because there's a lot that has been done in terms of bringing Cardano, establishing the Cardano ecosystem. I'm thinking about some projects like planting roots that Wada, nurturing roots at Wada, spread futures with DIT, and so many other projects that we will be able to list, all of us on the all of us that have been benefiting from Catalyst and other projects from the Cardano community that we worked on. We can bring them on and say, okay, this is what has been achieved so far, and then go about, okay, these are the governance, in terms of governance, these are the ideas that we can bring to the table. But then also point some of the issues that we have, like regional representation. We have, Mercy was pointing it out some time ago, I think. You have a Mugo in Europe, you have Cardano Foundation in North America. You have these institutions that are heading the Cardano community around, and that are bringing some value in their local ecosystem. But in Africa, we don't have that stronghold where we have one institution like that with a budget that it administers kind of with a relative freedom. And we need that, because it's only that will bring us strong regional representation. We need that. We need also local structure where we start introducing these fractal ideas, where we have branchings and groups that are working together in a certain way, but that have a certain autonomy on how to deal with their issues, because of the fact that local realities are usually very specific. And in this regard, I'll bring an example. We in one of the projects that was called Small Change that DIT that Catalyst has funded, we had a solution for a very damaging problem that we have here, which is the small change problem here. And the solution that we had was good, but the technology on the Cardano ecosystem, blockchain, wasn't good enough to answer to match with the solution that we had. Why? Because the reality that we are living here in Africa, where people are dealing with small amounts of money in terms of what will represent the currency in the US, for instance, they don't have it. So the system, or the system that they are designing it for the issues that they are having. And if we cannot have a regional representation where we have a say in the projects that we think are valuable for our own local realities, bringing changes in big systems like Hydra that has been designed to branch off the main blockchain and come back later, we cannot access those technologies because they were not designed to answer the problems that we have. So we need to address those kind of issues and tell them, look, the regional representation that we are asking for is for us to be able to deal with these issues on our own, because we are the ones that are having those problems and we know how to fix them. We are not waiting for someone else to fix them. We know how to fix them already. We want to be able to do that with a certain level of autonomy. So that's another issue. And also on the issue of inclusivity, we want more programs for knowledge, for education, so that people can get more knowledge on blockchain and onboard more developers so that we could exactly challenge those issues that we are having. On an economical inclusivity, we need a local treasury, as I was saying. We need a local treasury to help research and solve local issues. So those are the kind of ideas that we can bring so that the way we see it, it will empower us, yes, but it will also empower the entire community because we could bring more of the African perspective and solutions into the global community. Because if we're not pointing out as DIT some of the limitations of Hydra because we saw them while trying to build an application here, those developers at input and output never know that there are actually big limitations to the systems that they design themselves. So having our own research and development that is very much locally focused helps the entire community by bringing solutions that nobody in other communities think about because they don't have the issues that would generate those kind of technologies. So those are the kind of ideas that we're thinking about. And at last, the way we thought about doing it was so that was first through the speech, but also bringing in artwork that has been designed using our indigenous knowledge and trying to tell the Cardano community, look, this is what African philosophies, how we can materialize some of those concepts and bring a mask that represents that or a painting that represents that. That those ideas and philosophies that we want Cardano to embody, as well as the ones that are already there and the ones that Cardano chose for himself. Some of those ethos that we saw in the original constitution. So essentially, brushed up like that. That's the general idea that we are trying to bring, and the general presentation that we are trying to bring.
Yeah, thanks so much, Memos. That is very passionate. That is amazing. So we have a few names. What we are going to do is that we're going to, as Mustafa has suggested in the chat, after the synthesis workshop this Saturday, we will meet we can have one unifying message that is picked up by the various speakers. So if Darlington, Laurentine, you yourself, Memos, and or Maureen. I also wouldn't actually mind speaking, but I think that let us figure out a way to coordinate that. And thankfully, we are all in a WhatsApp group, so we can do the coordination from there. I think we'll very quickly jump to the next slide because it's almost time. And what I would say is that right now, the biggest challenge that we have is making sure, from an African perspective, because of visa requirements and so on, to actually get to Argentina. If we can get each and every one of our delegates to Argentina, that will be amazing. As we know, Dee, who is the travel specialist coordinator, is moving heaven and earth, as well as Maro from Argentina, IOG, Intersect, even CF, they are all just trying to make sure that this happens. So please, everyone, if you're a delegate or an alternate, be checking your emails. WADA is able to cover, help with some of the upfront payments. And that is actually also going well. But, a lot of these communications, we can continue it in the WhatsApp group that we have created. If you know anybody who is going to Argentina that is not in that WhatsApp group, please add them. Thank you. Back to you, Samuel.
We can even share more in the breakout room later on this particular call. It looks like we have exhausted the time, but Mercy, on our next slide, you want to talk about...
Yeah, that is the one that I just talked about. So
okay.
I think that will continue in there's a WhatsApp group that will continue there. And I believe that everyone on this call, and I think we have pretty much all the African delegates and alternates in that WhatsApp group. So that has been amazing. And at this time, I want to give a big shout out to Ifia, has been doing a lot of coordination in terms of the payments and so on. So thanks, and all to you all delegates for being on task and sort of, what do you call it? registering for your flights and so on and so forth, and booking appointments to talk with Dee. You're doing amazing work. So yeah, let's continue that discussion offline. Thanks, everyone.
And that brings us to the end of tonight's edition or today's edition of the Wada Forum. It's been a great show. Thank you, everybody, for participation. Thank you for your insights, and thank you for contributing to a very great show. As Mercy said, we have the social media platforms. Let's take the conversation there. Until next week, we'll see you when we see you. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Have a good morning. Have a good afternoon, wherever you are. Thanks.